In a little green patch in the middle of the Rajasthan desert in India, close to the border with Pakistan, lies a curious sight. A Hawker Hunter aircraft of the Indian Air Force sits majestically watching over the dunes, while nearby there's a battered wreck of a Pakistani tank. These are part of a memorial of the Battle of Longewala, in which the intrepid fighters of the Indian Air Force defeated a massive Pakistani tank thrust using air power alone in a unique feat that was not repeated until nearly 30 years later in the First Gulf War. By the time war broke out between India and Pakistan on the 3rd of December 1971, Pakistani soldiers had already massacred 3 million Hindu and Muslim civilians in Bangladesh in a genocide unparalleled since the Holocaust. On the night of the 3rd of December 1971, the Pakistani Air Force attacked Indian Air Force bases all over North India, sparking off the war. By the next day, an Indian armoured thrust had crossed the border north of Jaisalmer in Rajasthan to mount an attack on the Pakistani town of Rahim Yar Khan. At that very time, a large Pakistani armoured force massed at the Indian border near the town of Longewala. With the Indian armour 1.5 days away, the Pakistani armour was in a position to capture Longewala by dawn, overrun Ramgarh, and capture the city of Jaisalmer by dusk. This Pakistani force consisted of 2,000 men supported by 65 battle tanks with field guns, anti-aircraft guns and 138 vehicles. And all that stood opposing them were Major Chandpuri of the Indian Army and 120 men. With the Indian Army force being hopelessly outnumbered, a call went out to the Indian Air Force based in Jaisalmer for help. Help was promised at first light because all that Wing Commander Bawa, who commanded the Indian Air Force base at Jaisalmer, had were 6 Hunter day fighters and 11 pilots to fly them. All through the night of the 4th of December, Major Chandpuri's men heard the noises of Pakistani tanks amassing. As they crossed the border, the outnumbered Indian contingent opened fire with all they had, which was not much, just a single recoilless rifle and small arms. And the Pakistanis, believing that they were facing a large defending force, halted for the night. But at the break of dawn, the Pakistani juggernaut rolled on, little knowing that they would be used as an example to rewrite the history of warfare. The Hawker Hunter aircraft that operated out of Jaisalmer were armed with 4 30mm cannon and 12 anti-tank rockets, but the pilots had trained well and knew the sand dunes like the palms of their hands. The first 2 pilots took off at first light and were guided by an observer aircraft towards the attacking Pakistani armour. What followed was history in the making, as a tank thrust was defeated by air action alone for the first time in the history of warfare. In one such attack, young Flight Lieutenant Suresh was fired at by a tank main gun. The shell exploded under his aircraft and he lost control. His aircraft brushed a sand dune and lost part of its tailpipe. Stricken, the aircraft struggled to stay in the air, but Suresh managed to make it back to base, guided by Sherwin Tully in the Hunter accompanying him. But the attacks continued relentlessly through the 5th and 6th of December. The Pakistani tanks, exposed like plucked chickens, made desperate weaving maneuvers in the sand, creating a track pattern that was caught in a historic photograph like spaghetti in the sand. The fate of the Pakistani armoured thrust is explained by the desperate intercepted message from one of the Pakistani tanks.
हिंदुस्तानी हवाई फौज ने नाक में दम कर दिया है। एक हवाई जहाज जाता है और दूसरा आता है और 30-30 मिनट ऊपर नाचता है। 40% फौज और सामान हलक और तबाह हो चुका है। आगे जाना तो क्या पीछे मुड़ना भी मुश्किल हो गया है। जल्दी हवाई फौज मदद के लिए भेजो वरना वापस मुड़ना नामुमकिन है।
In the end, the Pakistani attack was driven all the way back to where they came from, leaving in their wake 52 Pakistani tanks destroyed or damaged.